Hello, I'm Sean. Welcome to Kodiak. Come on in. This is one of our 4 facilities. This is the main production facility. Later in the video, we'll go to some of the other ones. So the main assembly area for the Kodiaks is here. Each one of our 4 platforms has its own area. So this is where the K16 is built. Right next to it's the K12. And on the back side is where the K19s and the K25s are built. The machines all start out as sub-assemblies. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to be building some of the plumbing. We're building disc scrub decks. We're building the cylindrical scrub decks and the squeegees. Every one of the assembly areas has its own production screen that shows us what part to order and where those bin locations are. So we'll back up and we'll go back to the main final assembly area. So on the final assembly area, the machines will start out as a frame. So one of the first things that we're going to build is the heavy duty frame. And we've got frames stored underneath the benches, but this gives you an idea that the frame is all steel, casters bolt to a frame, not to the tanks themselves. So these machines are very durable, but they're also easy to service if you need to. So the squeegee linkage, the scrub deck, the transaxles, the casters, and the batteries all basically mount to a steel frame. Then after that, we'll take some of the disc scrub decks or the cylindrical scrub deck. We've got shrouds on the shelf. We've got central commands that are already made up. So we've got sub-assemblies that then the final assembly people will start with the frame and build the machine all together. So this is where the K16 is built. Right next to it is its baby brother, the K12. And it's built in the same fashion. You're going to have a frame, and the final assembly guys attach all the larger components to it. Each final assembly area has its own production screen. And so it's going to show us your order. And so the final assembly guys have real-time information. It's not a piece of paper. Real-time information that shows this is a 20-inch disc machine, what batteries, what charger, what brushes to put on it. And if something changes with that order, the customer service people change the order. In 30 seconds, it changes out here and it actually changes the color, so these folks know how to change the product to match your specs. Once that machine is done, the final assembly person will move the machine on their computer screen from final assembly down to QC. So we're going to start working our way down there to see what happens. On the way, we can talk about all the bins. If you look down this aisle here, and this is half the distance, you'll see that you've got hundreds and hundreds of bins full of components. And it's the same thing on this side of the shelf. So we store larger components here, and then a lot of smaller individual components. So this might be the wheel for a squeegee. You could have knobs for scrub decks, heavy plates for squeegees. And so these bins actually support the production of all the sub-assemblies. So when the sub-assembly person receives a build schedule to build 10 of these scrub decks or 30 of these squeegees, they'll bring a cart out here and they'll come out here. So if I'm building a cylindrical deck, this is where I'm going to get my belts. And this is just a fraction of the inventory we have. So these bins are full of inventory that we plan on using in the next couple of days or the next couple of weeks. In the bigger warehouse, you're going to have larger containers and pallets full of bulk items. On our way to quality control, where a final assembly machine would end up, we're going to take a quick detour to the electrical department area. It's one of the things that I think we're better at than most folks. So in our electrical area, we don't just put our own assemblies together, we actually make our own wiring. So this is some of the wiring equipment that we use. So a machine like this works on 16-gauge wire, and it actually measures the wire, puts a number on the wire, strips the ends, and so we have thousands and thousands of different wires that we have to make for machine harnesses, also for central commands. And this is just one of those machines. Then on this side, you get to the machines that actually crimp. So a machine like this over here is going to be crimping the wires. So now we're going to head towards where we build central commands. It's a little bit of a labyrinth, so we're going to sneak our way through there. And so when we refer to the central command, that's a metal box that holds all the switches and the relays and the circuit breakers. We're a big believer in putting all those electrical components in one location, and if for some reason we did have a component failure, so sometimes circuit breakers can fail, relays can fail. If we have a failure, it's inside a steel box. That failure can't spread to the machine or spread to the facility. Now that we've left the wiring area, we're going to go over to quality control area. The quality control is where whoever built the machine in the final assembly area brings the machine to quality control, and they're going to do a separate list from start to finish. So something that maybe they did just 5 minutes ago, like torquing down the battery post, they're going to do it a second time over here. So they would bring the machine from final assembly. They're going to turn it on, and then we're going to bring the machine over to one of the 5 stations we have to do quality control. It's early in the morning, so we don't have a lot of people over here at this point. But they bring it over. We're going to turn the machine off, and then we've got various checklists. We've got a toolbox. Every toolbox is different. It's got the torque wrenches in it, the meters they would need, and they're going to go through a detailed list to make sure that this machine was built properly, checking to make sure the brushes spin the right direction, the vacuum motor makes the right amount of noise, it goes forward and backward like it's supposed to. After the final assembly person does a thorough quality control, they actually give the machine to the quality control manager. So they'll put water in the machine, they're going to scrub the floor for 5 or 10 minutes with it, and then Chris Sturm is going to actually do the quality control. If he passes the machine, it's going to go to the grading department. If there's something that he's not happy about with the machine, the final assembly person takes it back to their area, makes those corrections, they come back to quality control, and they would do it all over again. Let's assume the machine passed quality control. Then at this point, we're going to take it and we're going to move it back to the grading department. So this is an example of one of the ramps that we would use. So every pallet comes with a ramp. I'm going to drive the machine up onto the ramp. We've got brackets to bolt it down, and then we're going to build a doghouse structure around it. I'll show you what a finished product looks like. So this is what the doghouse will look like when it's finished. You're going to have a ramp bolted up. You've got wooden structure, shrink wrap to make sure that we keep dust and dirt off the machine. But the other thing we're trying to make sure is that when you receive one of our machines, you can see inside to see, has there been any shipping damage at all? Our goal is to build a perfect machine, get it adjusted, quality control, and to ship it to you without any issues. So now we're going to take a walk through our roto molding area. Rotational molding is pretty common in our industry. A lot of the tanks, the solution tanks, the recovery tanks are going to be roto molded, and then also some of the baffles, the shrouds, and some of the bandeau systems. So we have different colors of plastic for different parts of the machine. The machine itself are in here, and we have 2 of these machines. They're roto line machines, and they're called a shuttle. It's a dual shuttle. So this arm isn't working. We're going to walk to the other side where the arms will actually be out. So here's one of our other roto line machines. This machine's actually in the cooling phase right now. So it's going to be in the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes, getting hot. The oven's about 500 degrees. And then it comes out and it cools for another 20 to 25 minutes before we can crack the mold open and remove the part. This is the control panel for it. And a machine like this is quite an investment for an organization like ours. But the dual shuttle shows that on the left side, number 1 shuttle cart is in the machine and cooking, and the number 2 cart is actually out. Once they come out and they've cooled, we'll pull the part out. It goes to the trim fixture stations. They'll measure and put new plastic in, put all the inserts in, clamp it, and it's ready to go back in the oven and keep cooking. Okay, we're in one of our buildings that does a lot of the metal fabrication. One of the machines we're going to talk about is the water jet. Why we selected a water jet over some of the lasers was the versatility it gives us. We can cut things like foam, neoprene, plastic, aluminum, and then even heavy gauge thick steel. So the way the water jet works, it's got a 55,000 pound pump that uses a garnet to blast its way through that material. So let's go take a look at the actual machine itself. Cool. So this machine is an Omax. We have a 26-foot long table by 6 feet wide. So we can put 1/2-inch steel up here and actually cut for 8 hours straight. So it's a lights out machine, allows us to clean overnight. Right now we're just cutting something as simple as some rubber curtains, and so you're cutting maybe 8 pieces at a time thick. So you've got 55,000 pounds of pressure cutting through that material, and since it's a neoprene, we're cutting above the water. If we were cutting steel or aluminum, we'd actually raise the water table up and be cutting below the water. And the control panel of it's over here, and that's what monitors the cuts, how long, and how it's tracking.